One of the most frequent questions I get when I'm building a solution is that, Terme, can we do this with AI? Why we are building this if Copilot, for example, can do that? Or I built this UI with AI, why can't you do that? And if I want to be completely honest, the answer is yes, we probably can leverage AI for building the parts that you see on the surface level or the UI. I can spend an afternoon with, for example, an AI coding agent and build a proof of concept for the solution. However, is that proof of concept ready to be shipped into production? No. In order to ship a solution to production, there are tons of things that design and the engineering team need to consider in order to ship to production. We have to think about, is the solution maintainable enough in the long run? How does it perform under failure? How does it perform with large scale data? Is it scalable enough? What if a new requirements come in? Is the design and the code at a state that can take new requirement, or is just designed to do that specific things? So although when you're making, for example, a proof of concept in your local host, you don't need to think about those problems, but those are the problems that we need to think about when we are shipping to production. And this kind of discussion usually are not an issue. We can answer them pretty fast and it gets resolved. This becomes an issue when the same argument gets used to shut down a project or bring the delivery dates forward. Most of the bottleneck we see during delivery or what blocks us are not related to the velocity of the code that we generate. These are the times that we spend on designing the solution properly, get alignment cross team regarding the features or what needs to be built. Sometimes a lot of times get put into setup networking and infrastructure. So next time you're pressuring the team or challenging them about leveraging AI to speed up the delivery of the solution, please think about and consider all those items that I mentioned as well. Another issue that I've observed recently is that with all this AI advancement, especially for code generation, there is this push to build more in production or ship more to production. The question that comes to mind is that imagine you have a solution and with AI now you can add 10 more features. But do you have the staff to support those 10 more features in production? Is your solution with that extra 10 more features maintainable? Is it actually bringing revenue for you or saving costs, or just you're building it for the sake of building it? And I always remind myself when I'm deciding to build a feature or add it to the solution or not of Google. Think about Google even before AI. If you go to Google search engine, the browser, you see a neat UI with just one box that you can enter your query. Do you think Google didn't have enough resource or capability with the most talented engineers in the world to build a more sophisticated UI or add more feature to that UI? They definitely could. At any point, if they make that decision, they could. However, they made the judgment that that tooling or capability, this just needs that a small box for searching the query, nothing more, and that's why they have a neat design. So does that actually new feature that you want to build with UI is helping your product or is just sabotaging it? Think about it before pushing a new feature into production, justifying it with AI for the build. Another thing I observed is that non-technical people are starting to build software solutions. And I personally think there are both positive and negative things about this. Starting with positive, okay? When a non-technical person for their day-to-day job they go ahead and build a solution, and they come and show it to you for the first time, a requirement image that you didn't know before, a problem surface that you didn't know before, for example, that your team had. That's why you didn't have a solution for it. So it surfaced like this. And you can now go ahead and build it for them, for example, if you want to do it properly. However, the negative side is sometimes you might not have control or governance of what people build anymore. So as these software solutions go into production more and more, people have budget, people are on other teams, and they're gonna build, and you cannot stop them. You will have a lot of systems in production, and your architecture will diverge. Even without AI, one of the main issues that architecture or design team had was that teams will go ahead and build the same things with the same functionality twice or three times in different teams, and they have overlapping functionality. But because the bounded context was different, one could not completely replace the other, and replacing them and decommissioning them was very costly or political. So this even exists before AI. And now with all this AI advancement, I think this problem is more severe, which makes me think all those principles that the architecture team kind of have, or makes the design based on those principles, are they still valid in the era of AI, or we have to rethink those principles, because you cannot stop people from building, right? So how much you can have restriction? People are gonna go build those solutions that have overlapping functionalities, are doing the same thing. As architects, what can we do to kind of help people to have a proper architecture, or move them towards the same strategy with the new systems that we have in the ecosystem of the products that we have? So this is something that I think about a lot, something to think about for you as well. Another thing that I constantly remind myself, and I think every designer or architect or any engineer that builds should have in mind, is that people fall in love with their own ideas and what they've built. So if you have a system or multiple solutions in production, there is a very high chance that you are biased towards that solution or love that solution, and you want to keep it in production. However, with this AI transformation, if you are not open-minded to the new solutions that are more intelligent and more efficient, more advanced, you might lose the benefit or return of investment if you don't decide fast to decommission the solution that you've built and move to the new solution. I'm not saying that should be done necessarily, but I'm saying always keep an open mind and don't fall in love with what you've built before, because you will miss out a lot during this AI transformation. Another thing that I think is worth discussing is the relationship between the leadership and the hands-on people, and how important this relationship is now during this transformation. I personally think that it's a very hard time to be a leader. Reason being, you're under pressure from different direction. So obviously shareholders wants you to generate revenue or save cost, and this will translate into pressure on your team, whether for example saving cost or again building more to generate revenue. So it will transfer in more pressure on your team, and then that pressure that you put in your team will somehow come back to you. And I think it's very hard for the leaders as well. However, I think there are some characteristics in the leader and into the relationship that they have with the hands-on people that make this process much easier. the number one thing that I think every leader should have is that they stay calm and collected during the chaos. Okay, if I see the leadership team panicking during this time, I will panic as well. Okay, it's a very sensitive time. Everybody is insecure about their job, whether they stay relevant in a 5 or 10 years time. So it's extremely important to remain focused, calm and collected, and that is one of the most important characteristics that a leader should show during this time. The second most important thing that I think is between the leaders and the hands-on people is trust. So you will need your hands-on people to give you those ideas to save costs or generate revenue. But if you don't trust you enough and they think that bringing you this idea will result in them losing their job or not having a role or say or in the new organization that you're gonna build, you have a major problem. So that trust issue needs to be fixed. So I understand, again, as a leader that is going through this transformation, you cannot guarantee that everybody will have a job. What I personally think that can be done instead is that if you have a future reorg in mind, think about how each individual can be mapped to the new roles, what skills they're gonna need into the new role, and build a training program to manage your team to the new organization or the new roles, rather than getting rid of them and hiring new people with the new skill set, which can be more costly. So I think these are the things that are worth thinking about or considering. I hope you enjoyed the video. These are all my very personal opinions and they are not facts. I would be happy to hear about your opinions in the comment section as well. Thank you.